Hello, my dear people of southern Cameroons, my brave warriors of the Ambazonia Liberation Movement. Accept greetings from me, liberation greetings from me, John Akura, today. Today is Tuesday, and today is June 28, 2022. My dear people, the times are rough. My dear people of the southern Cameroons, the scene is being set over in La République du Cameroun. Time is very much no longer on our side. I'm coming today, my dear people of the southern Cameroons, to bring very strong revelations and to sound the alarm once more for our preparation. Recall the last time I said here that when opportunity meets preparation, all what you get are excellent results. But when opportunity comes and there is no preparation, what you get is abject failure. My people, within the framework of this broadcast today, you are going to hear things that will seem in your mind as if it's an earthquake. They will seem as if there are things that are falling from space. I know you are all going to be asking just too many questions to yourselves. But my dear people, it is only given unto him who created us all to be all-knowing. It is by his grace and by his grace alone that we are privy once in a while to have the kind of information that we need to set ourselves free. Because they say when you know it, you know exactly what to do as it prevails. This batch of revelations that flooded my table last night sent me into a literal coma. After my last broadcast, quite some people, both on ground zero and in the diaspora, reached out to me and asked me, Mr. Akuro, you keep coming and talking to us about synergy, about collaboration, about cooperation. You keep coming and talking every day. But we're asking ourselves, are you talking to your brothers and sisters in the leadership of our struggle? Are you reaching out to them? Why don't you even invite them on your platform to come so that we know and listen to them and hear that you have brought them and this is what they have said about this need for synergy or collaboration or cooperation? Or if they refuse to come and tell us that you have reached out and they are not coming. My brothers and sisters of Amazonia, you must have known by now that I've made up my mind for a long time now to focus on the positive, to focus on what will unite us, to focus on what will bring us closer and ignore that which will divide us. It's not because that which will divide us is not in abundance. It is just so much out there. And in response, I've always said, there is not a single person in this movement that I do not make efforts to communicate with. All those in leadership will confess that I've made overtures, even those, there are some of them whose numbers I sincerely don't have, not because I've not made efforts to have those contacts, but because I sincerely don't have them. I have tried and I can't get them. I have asked and I have not been given. And I've knocked at some doors that have not opened. But that is not reason enough for me to come here to say this or that person has knocked at the door, he or she refused to open. I will continue to do just that in the background. But the information I bring here, the campaign that I carry out here, is because I want all of us to recognize that each and every one of us, Southern Cameroonians, be you on ground zero, be you in a diaspora, be you even in a refugee camp or in a prison yard, we are all stakeholders. We all hold the power in our hands to positively influence this movement if we decide to use it right. It is not an exclusive preserve of some. To be able to touch the hearts and minds of those, perhaps, who have determined that they will not work with others and that they don't want to see the need for synergy. Some have told me it is because of that that we throw you stones. Some say it is because of that that some of us call you a hypocrite. And I say, I've taken my option. That option is to continue to educate and sensitize and bring information when I can, so that we see what use to make with this information. Just like the information I'm about to break here, I have reached out to some already in the leadership who were more accommodating, and we've already had a talk, the details of which I've given them that I'm not going to be able to give on this platform, because there are some details that I won't be able to give on this platform. There are others whose doors have knocked who are still taking their time. I respect them. When they have that time and open the doors, I will give them those details. And I will ask that we find an opportunity to put our heads together as fast as possible, because time is not on our side, to see what use we make of this information. Opportunity is Prince Nikombarga, who used to say, comes but once. And so we don't have to let the opportunity that is right before us to dribble us. And unknown to a lot of people, we are there wagging our tails and saying there is time, when indeed there is no time at all. So, my people, the broadcast of today is extremely important, very special. As you're watching, don't hesitate to share the link as much as possible, because as many of our people as possible need to be informed about what is right ahead. So, my dear brothers and sisters of Ambazonia, got your loins settled down, fasten your seat belts, and let's get ready and go just after this commercial.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At VenBotty LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At VenBotty LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that 6-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbotty.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
So, my people, I like us to take note about what those who had the opportunity to fight before us said. They said, nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. And this is Atta Shakur. I know a good lot of us have seen this. A good lot of us have heard this. A good lot of us have been acquainted to this. Nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. In La République du Cameroun, the people have ceased to have consciences. In La République du Cameroun, the people don't care who you are, what you are, whatsoever you are thinking. That triangle has been transformed into the devil's kingdom on earth. My people of Ambazonia, when you sit and you look at the people of La République du Cameroun, you look at the government of that country, and some come and tell you that let us just try to accommodate them one way or the other because someday, come on. The last time I spoke on this platform about this, about having anything at all to do with La République du Cameroun in the future, I said, when a people or when someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Believe them the first time. We have run into problems and into a lot of difficulties because in the past, some of our people, a good lot of them, and they were in the majority, decided to settle for less than we deserved. And that is why in the end, we are with less than we even settled for at all. Our young people, our old vulnerable ones, even babies, are paying with their lives today, by day and by night. Listen, my dear people of Amazonia, I want to begin by telling this story that happened in Yaoundé, the capital of La République, yesterday. It's amazing what you're going to hear. That 50 blind people, 50 blind people, that people who cannot see, who have no eyes, who cannot see, walking with their canes, felt that they were suffering a lot and they wanted an opportunity to meet the ceremonial prime minister of that country, Joseph Diongute, to tell him their plight. These 50 old blind people converged onto the prime minister's office. They had a petition written that in case they are not allowed to meet the prime minister in person, they will at least deliver this petition to be handed to him directly so that he grows to understand their plight, so that he grows to understand what they are going through as a people. You want to know that La République du Cameroun is worse than Sodom and Gomorrah? I'm talking of yesterday, that was Monday, June 27. These 50 people, as soon as they arrived at the Prime Minister's office in Yaoundé, the divisional officer felt angry that they did not obtain authorization from him to go see the Prime Minister or to seek to talk to the Prime Minister. And they unleashed soldiers, policemen, gendarmes, all over the place. And what did these ones do? They came with all the brutality that you can imagine in the world. Descended on these 50 blind men. I mean blind men. People can't even see. They descended on them like anything else. Manhandled them thoroughly. Seized their canes. Destroyed their walking canes. I mean destroyed them. And bundled these blind people in various kind of ramshackled manners into cars and took them all into detention for daring to want to dialogue with their prime minister. That is La République du Cameroun for you. Those are the kind of people that some in Amazonia, some in the southern Cameroons say we should still, in any form or shape, be yoked with. If you can imagine this, being mated on blind people, I mean blind people. I mean their canes taken, broken brutally, the people manhandled, bundled in the most inhumane manner, and dumped into stinking cells. How harmful would these blind people have been? What degree of harm could they present? What strength, what powers could they have to do what to who? But that is in the capital of La République du Cameroun. That is a clear demonstration of the brutality that still lies right ahead. As I'm talking, make sure you share this link, because I'm still to get to the crux of the matter. I don't want anyone to miss out on this piece of information. I've been talking about this, and finally, we are here. So, my people, those are the kind of people that we are talking about. That is the kind of country that unfortunately we got yoked with in 1961. And that for the past 5 years and counting, we have been struggling to disengage ourselves with. And they are visiting us with all the evil that you can imagine on the planet Earth. And then while all this is going on, my dear friend, my Archbishop, because I'm a Catholic Christian, Andrew Nkia, says the church in Cameroon is in service of peace and reconciliation. I know Archbishop Nkia personally, for having met him and had a conversation with him. I know him personally, that was a long time ago, for having communicated with him and grown convinced that he is a man of God. When I read this, I ask myself one fundamental question. Is it that a journalist misquoted the Archbishop? Or it is simply that in communication, perhaps asleep, the Archbishop forgot one important thing that needs to come in to make what he is saying begin to have sense. When he says the church in Cameroon is in service of peace and reconciliation, what peace and reconciliation are you talking about in a setup of complete injustice on a daily basis? Peace and reconciliation in the face of massive and continuous injustice on a daily basis? We have 40 bike riders that went to inter their colleague, that were going to pay last respect to their colleague whose life was brutally cut off by Mr. Paul Biya's thugs and the body thrown in the waters below Foncha. On their way to pay their own colleague the last respect, they were all captured in Dom and branded Amber fighters. To date, 16 of them are missing. Nobody is raising the little finger. The entire Christian church in southern Cameroon, I mean the entire Christian church, I'm not talking about the Catholic Church, not just about the Presbyterian Church, not only even about the Muslims, even the Pentecostal churches, the Baptist Church, all of them, not a single denomination has raised the little finger to ask that what happened, what has happened to 16 young men who were providing livelihood for hundreds of internally displaced people living under their charge. Not a single church minister, not one, has raised the eyebrow to talk about the situation of these bike riders, to ask questions. But they were all quick, all of them, quick to come out and say Senator Regina Mundi needed to be freed the fastest possible because she's an old woman. My people, do all Southern Cameroonian lives matter? Do all Ambazonian lives matter? So even right in church, the lives of politicians matter more than the lives of the common people. And then, so therefore, I'm neither criticizing nor am I attacking. I'm just commenting on this statement that the church in Cameroon is in the service of peace and reconciliation. What peace and reconciliation, therefore, are we talking about if we can't pursue the cause of justice? That is why I buy into Malcolm X when he says, you can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. Freedom here, the reference is being made to justice. And I want to say this very unequivocally. Until the Christian church in the southern Cameroons, in Ambazonia, begins to see the need and talk about the need for justice, they should stop talking about peace. They should stop talking about reconciliation. Because that will simply be throwing water on a deck's back. It doesn't work like that. We have seen church ministers in other spheres get up, engage, fight for their people, talk for their people. I'm speaking today in the United States of America. The black man can talk today freely, move around freely, sit in big offices in this country because a church minister called Martin Luther King Jr. rose and said, before they talk of peace and reconciliation, there is the need for justice. Yes, he paid with his life. Just like Christ gave his life that we may have life and have it more abundantly. Martin Luther King Jr. never held back his words, even in the face of blatant criticism from those who felt that by standing with the oppressed, he was going to be getting unpopular from among the oppressors. And he made clear he did not need validation from anyone to do that which is right, both in the face of man and in the face of God. In the southern Cameroons appear to be seen the Church of Christ either standing with the oppressor or simply observing some suspicious and unholy silence. There are times where the language of silence is the language of the oppressor. And that is why Martin Luther King Jr. was unreserved when he said, the issue is not with those bad people who are causing all the harm, who are visiting all the trouble on the vulnerable people, but with those whose voices could help to put an end to that carnage, but who have decided to observe some complicit silence. That it is just silence that will speak louder than the cruel actions of those who have clearly taken their side. My people of Ambazonia, I'm still waiting for that day, for that moment where I will see ministers of the Christian church in the southern Cameroons rise like we are seeing them in Nigeria and speak straight, truth to power in favor of the oppressed people. I'm still waiting to see the day that the church ministers in the southern Cameroons will rise up and speak like the late Desmond Tutu for the oppressed people of the southern Cameroons. On that day, and on that day alone, will I understand that the church has grown to maturity in the southern Cameroons to note that there will never be any peace and reconciliation without justice. This is a sacrosanct truth that must be told to each and everyone in our community in no uncertain terms, without fear nor favor. My people, just a little break so I get some water down my throat and we'll get into the beef of our discussion.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At VenBotty LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At VenBotty LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that six-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbotty.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
My people, there is a tussle, a serious power tussle going on today within the ranks of the opposition Social Democratic Front. Some people are seeing this and are thinking simply that it is just some kind of SDF affair. What we are seeing within the opposition Social Democratic Front today, I still call it opposition for a mere reason, is something that has been cooking for a long time. It's been over 1 year, 6 months in the woods. But that is the core part of it. Because the overall plan has been in the works for more than 4 years for us to get to where we are today. So we've got to the point right now where there is a clear and visible manifestation of that thing that is to come. I recall, and I guess a good lot of us recall, that SDF chairman, John Frundi, at the start of the Southern Cameroon's liberation movement, was quite vocal against the approach being taken by the government of La République du Cameroun. Apparently, he did not think that it was going to be this serious. Quite some of us who were involved on ground zero had the opportunity to exchange with Frundi and even had Frundi as an ally in those very early days. So we thought, though, that he was an ally. As the days evolved, and by the time the Amber Boys arrived, Mr. Frundi was still vocal. Mr. Frundi was one of the first to announce to the rest of the world that some of those who were causing the most exactions on ground zero were not Amber Boys, that they were actually people, dogs, trained and brought in by Atanga Ponji, by Fru Jonathan Mujingni, by Fu Callistus Gentry, by Mengot Arinkongo, by Fo Tabetando, and all those criminals of the CPDM gang in the southern Cameroons. Frundi was one of those who made clear, he even said it on international media. I followed him on the BBC when he made clear that a good lot of them belonged to groups formed and trained by regime barons to muddy the waters for our liberation movement. Even when Mr. Frundi found himself in the hands of some of those boys, he came away from there, of course, unscathed. He didn't even spend a night, he didn't spend any time, and said it was an opportunity for him to have a good conversation with them. To put the icing on the cake, finally, Mr. Frundi made clear that if he were still young, he himself would have held his own toy and would have found himself in the bush with those voices. Of course, recently, an article published by a newspaper in Denmark made clear that some of those talks were actually trained by the government of Denmark and trained right on our territory with the sole intention of disguising as Amber Boys and wreaking all the havoc imaginable in our territory, so that the international human rights bodies will report these things as being exactions by the Boyses in the bushes or by the Ambers, so that in turn the international community will tag us as terrorists and go after us and put an end to the dream of the people of the southern Cameroons to attain their freedom. Mr. Frundi was at the vanguard of a lot of this information. But my people, as the time went on, gradually, Mr. Frundi was reminded of the stakes. And progressively, we could see a trend. Absent Mbandam, all the other people who had any connection with Frundi within the SDF party have been kept aside systematically. To the point, you should be surprised that you see one like Honorable Yo-Yo Gokutunja, who has been described a good lot of the time as finger and nail with Frundi, signing a petition against Frundi. To the point where you see Paul Njitu Masang signing a petition against Frundi. In fact, about the entire SDF elite in southern Cameroons did sign that petition, with the exception of Vaneganse Muchegel, who should be the author of this paper written regarding Nkongo Felix Agbobala, and Osi Joshua, who is half Cameroon, half Swiss. My people of Ambazonia, if you haven't seen this coming for a long time, then something should actually be in the offing. That this is John Frundi, John Frundi, because of whom a lot of young people, a lot of young people in the southern Cameroons lost either their lives, careers, some were maimed, some lost all their economic activities, lost almost everything. As I was talking, I followed an audio left by a young man in one of the WhatsApp forums, where he recalled how he was ready to lay his blood at any time to protect Frundi from the Owonas. I recall how people took turns to sleep around Frundi's house in Terikon, transforming themselves into human shields to protect Frundi from the same Biya regime. I remember how in churches people took turns to pray for Frundi so that he will not be poisoned whenever he had any moment to have anything to do with anyone of the Biya regime. I know how disappointed a good lot of these people are today to find Frundi in the heart of Ngomejab, feeling excited and dancing his body to stupor with the same Grégoire owner and the same people against whom our people were dying to protect. My people of Ambazonia, the controversial appointments made by Frundi within the SDF were not innocent. If you recall, 2 communications back, 2 outings back, I made clear that Agbobala was being appointed within the SDF for a simple reason. Because there are plans by the Biya government to take Agbobala into the government in fulfillment of an agreement that they had before he left prison in 2017. And they felt that it made sense for that to come through an opposition political party so that it wouldn't be so apparent and so blatant that it is in fulfillment of that promise. So that it would be the SDF proposing Nkongo Felix Agbobala. And because I had that information from the insiders, they made clear to me That was the reason. That was before the dump that I received last night. So that the picture gets clearer. As we are progressing in this communication, you will be amazed just how well this whole thing has been planned. So Nkongo Felix Agbobala was embarrassed because as soon as that decision came out, I came on the air to say exactly the information that was given to me from the inside. The young man was embarrassed. He was confused. He didn't understand how this information had already leaked out, and in total disappointment, now I had to start thinking differently. How do I save face right now? And so he tried to play the Pontius Pilate, but unfortunately for him, he will quickly be caught by Frundi, whose ego nobody dares. No, nobody dares Frundi's ego. I can bet you that even O.C. Joshua will simply have seen this piece of paper out. Because when I read this, I recognize the handwriting of that one who calls himself Senator Vanigansi Mochigal, that is a vice president of the Senate, in which they remind Nkongo Felix Agbobala very clearly that all arrangements were made with him present. When I first saw this letter, I said, oh my goodness. So I took it back to the information I received last night. I was like, oh, the whole picture gets clearer. This piece of paper, written by Frundi, referring to Agbobala, is deeper than what anyone will see. Perhaps, if you don't read it along the lines, you won't even understand. I'm convinced, even myself, I might not have understood if I had not received complementary information earlier. Because when Mr. Frundi says here that since January 2022, when discussions, let me place that letter, that was who you see, that since January 2022, when discussions on a potential transition government picked up, I have worked with several of my trusted advisors to create a special accommodation for you. That's for Agbobala. It has required that we restructure the party just to make this possible. At every juncture, Honorable OC has consulted with you to make sure you are updated on all developments and key decisions. Did you get this clear? Now, Honorable OC Joshua, or OC Joshua, had been in touch with Agbobala all this while, making all these preparations, informing him at every juncture, and the SDF was forced, was forced to alter the structure of its party just to accommodate Nkongo Felix Agbobala. Does that mean a thing to anybody? Because this is on command, on special command. Let's go back up in issue. Letter says, on October 12, 2021, Honorable Joshua OC reached out to me, explaining that you had been in conversation with him about moving into politics under the banner of the SDF. Get the date, October 12, 2021. That's almost 1 year from the day Nkongo Felix Agbobala started courting the SDF to find a way, because he wants to get into politics, but through the banner of the SDF. I told you earlier that this whole plan has been long in the making and is being rolled out progressively, just the way La République du Cameroun knows how to do it. Your membership was discussed with at least 3 members of the shadow cabinet who expressed serious concerns about your lack of participation in anything about the SDF since its inception. And he says, despite these initial concerns about the request, we decided to accommodate it and start creating a space for you. As an elder statesman, I decided to support the request because I believe Honorable OC Joshua could use the support of a young dynamic person like you to address the challenges within the party and prepare for critical negotiations with the government. Listen, Frundi is not saying here that I believed the SDF, that I believed the neck of the SDF could use the support of a young dynamic person like you. He says, I believe Honorable O.C. Joshua. And then he ends up with, to prepare for critical negotiations with government. O.C. Joshua, not SDF. Critical negotiations with government. Did you take time to understand this? I know why I'm getting through this gradually before I take us to the bombshell of today. So my people of Ambazonia, it is not something that they've been working on just today. No. It's been in the woods. It's been a long time in coming. And one other message that Mr. Frundi translates here, because the SDF party is a few months away from a convention at which Mr. Frundi will not be candidate, per his own statements. But when he says here that I decided to support the request because I believe Honorable O.C. Joshua could use the support of a young and dynamic person like you, there's another revelation here. Frundi has already de facto handed the party over to Joshua O.C. Listen, Frundi is simply announcing here that the next chairman of the party is Joshua O.C. And that is why, in the appointments that took place, all arrangements were made to shelve everyone that is not in support of Joshua O.C. to ensure that the new État-Major will only be people who will guarantee that at the next convention, Mr. O.C. Joshua is clapped through as the chairman of the SDF to continue the critical negotiations with the government of La République du Cameroun. Does it leave anyone anymore in doubt of what is taking place? Let me be clear. Listen, in 2011, or rather in 2018, when O.C. Joshua represents the SDF party as presidential candidate and is beaten mercilessly, records the worst score the party has had ever. And Maurice Kamto of the opposition raises hell about electoral irregularity. Who is the first opposition leader to rise up and say he recognizes the victory of Mr. Paul Biya? Joshua O.C. For all the years Frundi has run as president, right up to 2011, even when they had the arrangement behind, Frundi on no occasion has ever come up to say, I recognize the victory of Paul Biya. Take careful note. Even when the other opposition parties decided that they wanted to form a bloc to protest the result of that election, O.C. Joshua sided with the CPDM. We have seen that throughout. Of course, everyone recalls that the SDF was officially recruited on grounds that it's a political party whose fiefdom is the Southern Cameroons, and therefore its official position about what is going on in the Southern Cameroons will help bolster the position of La République du Cameroun on the international scene as to the one and indivisible. The reason? You notice that Joshua O.C. has always been among the signatories writing trash to the U.S. government or the U.S. Senate, requesting that Southern Cameroonians be shipped back to La République du Cameroun for Mr. Biya's dinner. Joshua O.C. Of course, this is not new, what I'm saying. I'm going crescendo. Frundi, first of all, behaved as if he wasn't part of it. Because at a NEC meeting at Frundi's residence in Soa in Yaoundé, led by Honorable Nincho and a good other members of the NEC, a resolution was arrived at which they asked Joshua O.C. to withdraw his signature from that document signed by some misguided so-called members of parliament of La République du Cameroun, asking the U.S. government, telling the U.S. government that there was peace on the ground in Cameroon, that there was nothing going on. Negating what Regina Mundi said after her experience with the Amber Boys. She said, there is war in this country. This country is at war. But the next asked Osi Joshua to withdraw his signature. Nay, he never did. Frundi never followed through until it got to a point where La République du Cameroun itself held Frundi on his boss and said, you must make a statement. And Frundi had to come on Skype on the Press Hour program on CRTV to say he is calling on the US government to extradite Southern Cameroon's freedom fighters to Paul Biya's country for his dinner. My people of Amazonia, I'm moving gradually so that you come along with me and you understand what is at stake here. Because some people are looking at the whole thing superficially. My dear people, this has reached the apex because finally, in total collaboration with the French government, La République du Cameroun has come to the firm conclusion that 2025 would not be a good idea. The last time I came here, 2 broadcasts behind, I brought this poster. I talked about it here and I read it, where Frank Biya said this, what I repeat here. He said, il faut une nouvelle sphère de la politique au Cameroun et un président jeune. That there needs to be a new era of politics in Cameroon manned by a young president. And then he said that he just wishes, he said, bien sûr, que oui, si les Camerounais me font confiance, that if Cameroonians put their trust in him, je ferai la différence par rapport à mon père. I will be different from my father. He said, for water, nobody will pay again for water. No water bills. Water that does not exist. For electricity, no electricity bills. For electricity supply, that does not exist. And he said, for education, secondary schools, university will be free. And he will even offer scholarships to the meritorious ones. And he moved on to say, even in hospitals, first aid and all kinds of basic treatment for those who do not have the means will be free of charge. And no one will ever talk again about PTA levies in any school. And then he says, in conclusion, he says, je demande juste au peuple camerounais de rester calme et respecter nos institutions pour un Cameroun meilleur, car quelque chose de nouveau arrive. Now, my people, I want us to go back. We see things, we read them, we forget them. I want us to go back to this. The last sentence. Je demande juste au peuple camerounais de rester calme et de respecter nos institutions pour un Cameroun meilleur. He says, I am just asking the people of Cameroon to stay calm and respect our institutions for a better Cameroon. Listen, stay calm. Respect our institutions. Did he say, I'm calling on the people of Cameroon to come out massively in 2025 and vote for me? Did you hear that? Because he says, this is what he says. Car quelque chose de nouveau arrive. And now, I brought in a young lady, a Betty lady, who was mad and angry and screaming, non au gré à gré. And they even came out with this, which I also shared with you. We say non au gré à gré. But listen, my people, In la République du Cameroun, they say le chien aboie, la caravane passe. Listen, Frank understood that just talking of movement, the Frankists and all of those things will not lead to anything. Because Frank Biya is not a militant of the CPDM. Because Frank Biya within the CPDM party is an outsider. And because the plan with France is bigger than being ready to use people within the CPDM whom they no longer trust today. And because at the helm of that CPDM are Bamileke people, are people from the far north or from the Grand North, they tell themselves it is a wrong strategy to take. That is why gradually they move from Frankist, which seems to be just a name, a fancy name, to what you now see here today. Mouvement citoyen pour la paix et l'unité. Tous unis pour un Cameroun plus fort. Now, it is no longer the Frankist movement. This now is a political party in the offing. Like I said, everything is being meticulously prepared. And this is being prepared right in plain sight, before everyone's face. They don't have consciences. They don't have any morality. They don't give it a damn. And my people, so when I received this news last night, that I'm about to share with you immediately after this break.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At VenBotty LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At VenBotty LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that 6-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbotty.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all. Would you like to make a 6-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At VenBotty LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At VenBotty LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that 6-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbotty.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
And so, my people, the die is cast. The transition in La République du Cameroun is on. At the behest of France, the governing spheres of La République du Cameroun have decided that 2025 is too far and too predictable. And so to make sure that they are able to attain their objective of enthroning Mr. Paul Biya's son, Frank, as the next president of Cameroon, they have decided in collaboration with France to stage the transition as in right now. There will be no election in La République du Cameroun in 2025. According to the information that I received from the presidency of the Republic of La République du Cameroun, that transition is already in total preparation and in full gear. It will come seemingly in the form of a palace coup. They will not wait for Mr. Paul Biya to pass on, because from all indications they have noticed that a lot of the protagonists for power are preparing so seriously too for that moment when Mr. Paul Biya closes his eyes. As a result, therefore, they have determined that it will be too risky to wait. And that is why, therefore, to take everyone by surprise and by storm, so that all those who will be waiting for 2025 will simply find themselves before the fait accompli with the last touch of la force de l'expérience. There will be a palace coup. You will rise up and hear that Mr. Paul Biya has been confined because, for one reason or the other, it is no longer possible for Mr. Paul Biya to carry out his duties. And as a result, Frank Biya will be brought in to make a speech and to announce to the people of La République du Cameroun that a new era had come. And from that moment, the military that is right now already being seriously drilled, that is why there have been massive recruitments in the military, in the police, in the gendarmerie in the past few years, and they gave the impression to all the people of La République du Cameroun that it was because of the war or the conflict in the southern Cameroons, whereas the Beti clan had simply been preparing for this takeover. When that will be announced, the military will already be in charge of almost every place. And that is why you noticed that in the last recruitments, it was naked. They were no longer masked. All the names you saw were Owona, Abena, all of them. And so, my people, that is why at the same time, they've engaged all the tracks. That's why they've used all forms of suggestive means, with no one coming in to say, no, retract this, it's his fault, to let the people gradually begin having that thought that Frank Biya could possibly be the next president. And so that before everyone knows it, the game will be over. And as part of that plan, they are setting aside several garrisons and several battalions of troops to be dispatched to the southern Cameroons in the wake of that announcement, because they tell themselves that that kind of announcement can cause a stir. And so they want to hold us in check at that time, because they plan and think themselves that the confrontations, the protests in La République du Cameroun could take about a week or two to be quelled with all the brutality imaginable. That is why even the sight of blind men coming to seek audience with the Prime Minister gave them the impression that this could be other kind of people disguised as black men. The level of paranoia in La République du Cameroun has attained vexing points. My people of Amazonia, now that you know what I know, let us begin to think of the consequences. All those politicians in La République du Cameroun that are waiting for 2025, sorry, it will not be played in 2025. Take a look at this. The procession is gradual. This newspaper is published on Monday, June 27, and it shows 70% of the people of La République du Cameroun have voted in a so-called opinion poll for Frank Biya to be the next president of Cameroon. My informants let me know that we are going to see this in almost every other newspaper because the money is already out there. It will be like a chorus. This is not in preparation of 2025. No, my people, this is not in preparation for 2025. This is in preparation for now. My informant continues that as per that plan, Joshua Osei is Frank Bia's prime minister. And that is why Joshua Osei is already actively leading serious consultations here and there among people in the southern Cameroons who will be part of that transitional government that Frundi inadvertently referred to here. Of course, no one could take note. Me too, I wouldn't have been able to decipher. And the term was absolutely clear, transitional government. So Osei Joshua is the prime minister for Frank Bia, who will be president. And therefore, the need to clear all those who within the SDF party could try to use the party to agitate. When they were referred to in the Post newspaper as coup plotters, they meant exactly what they meant. In the days ahead, you will see the French ambassador again at the Unity Palace of La République du Cameroun, and this time it will be too frequent. It will be at least twice a week. My people of Ambazonia, you want to doubt? This paper says 70%. In 2000, and I want to thank my good friend Comrade Yembe, who brought my mind back to this. In 2018, and on September 16, these newspapers came out, almost like in a chorus, and announced that Paul Biya will be elected at 80%. Look at, one said 81%, the other one said 80%. There are several other papers that are, none of them announced below 80%, that it was opinion polls. And what were the results at the end of the day? Can anyone recall the result at the end of the day? Did the pin change? My people of Ambazonia, I've been talking here about opportunity and the fact that La République du Cameroun is a powder magazine, where all these maneuvers are going on over there. This is time for us to begin to draw the lessons. This is time for us to begin to understand the meaning of opportunity meeting preparation. That is why I subscribe to what Nelson Mandela said in his book, Long Walk to Freedom, when he said, a freedom fighter learns the hard way that it is the oppressor who defines the nature of the struggle. And the oppressed is often left no recourse but to use methods that mirror those of the oppressor. At the point, one can only fight fire with fire. I don't know if someone gets me here. I say Nelson Mandela, the Nobel Peace Prize. Nelson Mandela, who has been considered one of the greatest people of our times, on basis of the fact that he was a peaceful soul. This is what he said, that a freedom fighter learns the hard way that it is the oppressor who defines the nature of the struggle. And the oppressed is often left no recourse but to use methods that mirror those of the oppressor. At a point, one can only fight fire with fire. The days ahead, or should I call them the weeks ahead or the months ahead, are pregnant. It calls for adequate preparation. Don't come here and ask me in a month or two or what. Mr. Akuro, you said that. Why did this? Listen. Those who send out this information hate that thing from happening. They want to nip it in the bud. But you are dealing here with a system that doesn't listen, that doesn't fear, that has no respect for anybody nor any institution. Therefore, You may like me, you may hate me, but take what I'm telling you today very seriously. My people of Amazonia, we can't afford to find ourselves in decades again of subjugation to La République du Cameroun. This is the time more than ever before for us to ensure that La République du Cameroun's monarchical tendencies end in Babajo, that La République's monarchical tendencies end in Bonaberi, that La République's monarchical tendencies end in Lum, end in Melon, end in Sancho, that they don't cross into southern Cameroons. Because if we let this to happen, we will have only ourselves to blame. I have spoken. To God